What's up, metalheads? It's Death Metal Dave in your face here on MetalMessiahRadio.com. And man, I have a guest with me today. It's Austin Spence from Embryonic Devourment. Hey, what's up, brother? I'm sorry to drag you away from your kids, man.
Oh, it's all good, man. We're just they're hanging out in the pool right now, and I was in there for probably a couple hours and decided to step out and catch my breath here, and they're going at it, so no problem at all, man. I'm happy to be here with you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. How old are your kids? Young?
One of them's 10 and the other's 13. So yeah, they're still pretty young. My oldest one is a drummer, actually.
Nice.
She's taken to the music. Yeah, man. And so she's totally, hip to, what I'm doing and is supportive of that. And she's showing me, all kinds of new stuff, in the music scene all the time, and I'm kind of showing her the old school, death metal stuff and so forth. So
Killer.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I enjoy being a dad.
Killer, man. I do too, even though mine's long gone. I have a daughter, 29, but she has me a grandson. So there you have it. And he's awesome.
Nice, man.
But
yeah.
He's not even 2 yet. And he's really fun right now. When I get to see him, they're not near me right now. But anyways, hell yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's, kids are fun, man. They're just fun.
They are. I get to experience all the cartoons and all that stuff all over again. So I'm having a blast.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. So can you start back to when you were young and what got you into music?
Well, my dad, even before I was born, was a session player in the Los Angeles rock and roll scene. He played with he would session for bands like the Bus Boys.
Wow!
I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're responsible for writing the Ghostbusters theme song and a bunch of great hits from the past back in the early '80s and so forth, and a number of other famous musicians and bands that he's worked with. But as a session player, he was always kind of the one in the background that would step in for some of these guys that couldn't make it, or maybe couldn't hack the recording. My dad would step in and do that. And growing up, I was always around him and his band friends, and going a little further into the future. At one point, he was in a band called Anomy, which Anomy, the meaning of Anomy is the step right before anarchy, basically.
Okay.
And they were I would say, like an early heavy metal style, kind of punk rock too, kind of like a punk metal style. And they had, believe it or not, Ivan DePrume from White Zombie was the drummer. And then for a little while there, they had Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses on bass on one of those recordings.
What year are you talking?
Man, I was probably, I was born in 80, so I want to say this is probably right around 1992,
Gotcha.
93.
Early 90s.
Cool. And, this was obviously Anomy was kind of a side thing for Duff and also for Ivan DePrume. It was a side band for those guys, but, that was my dad's main project at the time. The singer of that band was
what's your dad's
singer
name?
Of Ronnie Lee Spence.
Okay, cool.
And the singer of that band at the time, his name Jerry Duncan. He was the singer for a very famous punk rock band back in Texas. Famous for having been one of the very first punk rock bands actually in the USA, and they were called Legionnaire's Disease.
Okay.
And anyways, I was the singer for Anomy, and so I got to be around these guys as a young kid, not really knowing who they were. Like, these dudes that would walk in, smoking their joints and, hanging out in the living room, or whatever, or, at the band studio. And I was just kind of a kid, the kid that was kind of like oblivious to all this. I knew they were rockers, but I didn't know, status or anything like that.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
But so I grew up around, a lot of that stuff and the lifestyle. My dad was a rocker guy, and of course that had a huge impact on me. My brother, he was younger than me. He was at home with mom, but my dad, he was taking me to all the shows. I would help him carry his equipment, and I'd be backstage, not really allowed to go, down into the crowd. So I would always be backstage hanging out with my dad and that kind of thing. And so that had a big influence on me. Of course, I started playing guitar, and started really getting into, at that time, Metallica. That probably would have been around 94, I guess. And so, yeah, heard Metallica, was into that. And then, being a musician, I just slowly started gravitating into what's next? How can, who plays harder, who plays faster?
That's a common theme with the metalheads that I interview.
Yeah.
They progressed.
Yeah, man. So, you go from Metallica to, Slayer and Pantera.
Yeah.
And, Sepultura, heard the Arise album, and I was like, holy crap, this must be death metal, At least for me at that time, I thought Arise by Sepultura was death metal. I guess by nowadays standards, they say, oh, that's thrash. But me at the time, I heard that gruff sounding voice, and I was like, this is death metal. To me, that was death metal.
Right.
And, and then from Sepultura, you hear, Napalm Death. That took a little more getting used to, because they had a more abrasive sound, and I wasn't used to hearing the snare drum played so fast and so quick.
Right. Yeah.
And that was weird to me at first, but of course, after a few listens, it kind of grows on you like coffee, and then you love the stuff. You're addicted to it.
Yeah.
And so I just started progressing like that, and of course, started my first band when I was about 15, I would say. We were called Demise with a Z, and so we started playing some of our first shows down in LA. We played like the Whiskey A Go Go and a few other places down there, and we'd sell tickets to our friends and stuff like that, and made our first little demo tapes. And
you were allowed to play at the Whiskey?
Yeah, man. As long as we sold those tickets, they were happy.
Yeah. Back then, I mean, I guess it's still like that. It was a pay to play kind of thing. But you got tickets.
Yeah, and that's that whole LA vibe, man. You got to sell tickets. I wouldn't be caught dead doing that now, but back then I just accepted that's how it is.
Yeah. Well, there's still some people that do it in New York and other places too. So it's not just there.
Yeah. Totally, man. So we were playing around and stuff, and kind of started getting our foot in the door with some, meeting some other bands, and this one particular show, we ended up getting on like a house party, pretty much, and at the time, I would say we sounded like maybe like Pantera or something of that nature.
Okay.
Pantera, Slayer, something like that. We weren't quite death metal. We were still into the Slayer, Pantera type vibe, and so we played this house party show with a band called Disgorge from San Diego, and these guys were just a fucking technical death metal powerhouse. I mean, just incredible, man. I mean, we played and we noticed that at this show, the crowd was a little different. Like, these guys look, they weren't your average metalheads. These guys were into something darker and something deeper. Couldn't really get them to move around as much, which was surprising to us, because usually when we played shows, people were into it and they're moshing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But these people were just kind of standing around, and then Disgorge went on after us. And holy shit, man, the whole place just erupted, violent mosh pit, just gnarly status. And, of course, we were just floored by that, kind of stood back and we're like, okay, band meeting.
I want to do that. I want to do that.
We're like, yeah, we want to go ultra brutal, so, and that kind of just led into getting harder and faster and Eventually, Demise kind of, ended, and then
had its demise.
Yeah, had its demise, and then I played in another band down there for a little while called Incest and Corrupt. Did that for a while, and then my parents divorced, and so my dad ended up moving up to Northern California, up to near Humboldt County, and we became weed growers. And,
okay.
And so that whole, city life and the whole music scene thing died for me pretty much. Just I didn't really know anybody up in the redwoods that was into this shit. And so I was definitely homesick at that point. But you end up meeting people, and I ended up meeting this guy Luke in band class. I finished up my last year of high school there, and he walked into band class one day, and I was just messing around on the guitar, and he was like, "Holy shit, man, this sounds fucking badass!" And at the time, he was a punk rock drummer. Had played in a couple punk rock bands, and
gotcha.
So he wasn't really hip to the grindcore thing yet, or the death metal stuff. But me and him would kind of trade tapes and stuff, and I let him like borrow like a Deeds of Flesh cassette tape and like Morbid Angel, and
gotcha.
He would lend me some punk rock stuff, and we would kind of mess around with that. And before long, he was trying out the grind beats and wanting to play harder and faster, as every person that's into extreme metal does. They want to get harder and faster. And so we started our first band together called Blue Puke. And we did that for a little while, just me and him. It was just like a little two-piece. And then finally this guy, Lauren, moved out from Michigan out to that area as a weed grower too. He was new to the area. He was probably, 19, 20 years old at the time. And he walked into the grocery store one day wearing a Cannibal Corpse butchered at birth t-shirt. And of course, I'm like in the grocery store going, who the fuck is that guy? What the fuck? You don't find too many of those people out here.
Yeah.
So kind of like a destiny kind of thing, like this is meant to be. And
right.
He played a little bit of guitar. So we just started getting together and jamming and getting together with Luke, and it just became a band. And we changed the band name from Blue Puke to Ye Old Scabbard. Decided to go like a full-on pirate-themed death metal, basically.
Right.
And because we there was bands that had subject matter, like Cannibal Corpse had the gore thing, and you got Nile that has like the Egyptian thing, and
yeah,
and then of course you got the satanic bands. We wanted to have some kind of theme, some kind of subject matter. So we went with pirates and sailing the open seas and pillaging and plundering and that kind of trip. And that slowly morphed into, we started playing some shows, and we're like, okay, we want to go. Of course, we want to get more sick with it, so we're like, this name fucking sucks. And, we don't want to fucking be pirates anymore. So we're changing the name, and we were all high on mushrooms and LSD this one night. And a friend of ours who was hanging out with us was like, hey man, it'd be a sick fucking band name, Embryonic Devourment. And all of us were just like, whoa, dude, fucking crazy. So we went with that name, decided to use it. And that's pretty much the formation of Embryonic Devourment right there.
Well, let me ask you a question to go back a little bit. What is this band? I might be butchering the freaking name. Cerebus?
Yep, Cerebus. That was another band I did. Yep, I forgot to mention Cerebus. That was before doing a band. There's a couple bands I'm missing in between that time period. Yeah, I did Cerebus for a good chunk of time. I was the drummer for that band.
Damn, so you play all instruments. You could do your own thing.
Totally, man.
No
I play
offense to your
guitar,
bandmates.
bass, drums. Yeah, which is good because then I'm understanding. I'm able to understand the dynamics of song creation. I when I write a riff, I'm like, I already have an idea of how I would like the drums to go, or how I'd like the bass line to go, and of course I let my guys do their thing. But yeah, it does help being able to understand all the components that go into writing a song. So after I did Cerebus, that lasted probably a good 7 to 8 years. We did 3 albums with that band. Then I started a band called Mummification, and that was with Adam Weber, who later joined Embryonic Devourment. We did with Mummification. That was kind of a good band in the sense that that's where my contacts really started taking shape. I was able to, with Mummification, play some key shows. With we did a big festival with Cannibal Corpse and Obituary and Sadist called the Northwest Death Fest.
Okay.
And then having gotten that under our belt, then that kind of opened up the doorway to hey, we played this show, and then other promoters like, oh, you played that show? Oh, well, come play this show, and so we really started integrating into the Bay Area death metal scene, which was about 2 hours south of where we lived out in the Redwoods, about 2.5 hours south, actually. And so we would make these regular trips down to San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco south of you. Gotcha.
Yeah. And that's where we really started developing a following. In fact, there's a lot of people now that think like, oh yeah, Embryonic Devourment, San Francisco band. Well, we're not actually from San Francisco. We're from about 2.5 hours north of San Francisco.
Right.
But we travel down to that area all the time, as much as we can. In fact, we just played a show down at the DNA Lounge in San Francisco with Vader, Terry Butler's band, Inhuman Condition.
Yes.
And
awesome.
And
dude.
Origin. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's the Bay Area scene has treated us well. We never had to pay to play shows in the Bay Area, which is a lot different than down in Los Angeles. I mean, it's been going well. We've got 5 albums with Embryonic Devourment now. I'm working on a 6th album right now. I'm about 4 songs in. So yeah, and the writing's going extremely well, man. I'm fucking stoked with how everything's sounding. It's just, I always want to be able to outdo the previous album. I always kind of told myself, okay, I'm done if I can't outdo my previous, so, but it's going good, man. I really do feel like this is definitely going to be the strongest shit yet that we've ever had.
What, so did you go with a theme in Embryonic Devourment?
Yes, definitely. With Embryonic Devourment, the name itself kind of, we decided, the Embryonic Devourment represents, the world, and the world is an embryo, and we're constantly devouring it as humans, not letting it reach its full potential because we're depleting it of its, polluting it and depleting it constantly, taking out oil and blah, blah, blah. And so that's kind of what the name in itself means, but it goes into an even deeper message behind it, which is been our whole theme for the past 4 albums, which is this reptilian conspiracy. That there's these powerful elites, that
control
are basically these, man, that are tied in with this reptilian alien bloodline, and have been manipulating the powers that be, and have been for probably a couple thousand years or more. It's kind of loosely ties into, if you've ever seen that show Ancient Aliens.
Yes.
Kind of that whole thing, but more from the reptilian Anunnaki point of view. So that's what the past 4 or 5 albums have been about. And same with this new one I'm writing. And in fact, it's gotten so
is
it created some waves with the person, a guy named David Icke, who wrote a book called The Biggest Secret. He one of the first people that started talking about this reptilian race. It caught his attention, and he actually invited us to one of his seminars a while back. So we got to go down and meet David Icke, and I showed him my lyrics, and he gave us his blessing and was like, you have my blessing to keep doing what you're doing and, exposing the reptilian agenda. And so I really feel like, we are the reptilian death metal band fully blessed by David Icke himself.
Crazy. So that's what some people say. So it's like alien related, sort of environmental.
Absolutely, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean,
political.
Totally political.
Okay.
I mean,
all the above.
A lot of this reptilian bloodline type stuff ties directly into the political web that is currently happening, with these, rich bloodlines that go back all the way to, Egyptian pharaohs, and there's a hidden bloodline in there if you trace the family lines and the family roots. It's been going on a long time. And so yeah, it all ties in politically, and there's some deep, twisted, ritualistic stuff going on, behind the lines and behind the scenes. Everything from these elite, powerful people conducting rituals with, I don't even know if I should really say it, but adrenochrome type rituals and drinking menstrual blood and just some really weird, far outlandish stuff. I mean, this ties right back into that whole thing that, you heard about, like Jeffrey Epstein, so to speak, these type of powerful people that are behind the scenes orchestrating this weird shit going on, and we talk about it in our lyrics and expose it, in our music. It's our way of speaking what we feel is, could be the truth.
Hell yeah. Hey, everybody. Well, I don't say everybody. I guess everybody has their own belief of how the world exists. So,
totally, man.
From religion to conspiracy, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but everybody has their imagination of what it is. I've always said that, to me personally, I believe that the world is like, well, there was a band that was called Alien Ant Farm. That's what I look at us as. we're an experiment, you know what I mean? And
know exactly what you mean.
So yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with people having their own belief systems. And some people want to, believe that there was a man who could walk on water and turn water into wine. And,
yeah.
So I can believe that, there's, an alien race from planet Nibiru, if I want to, and that's okay.
Exactly.
And what's cool about it is
I'm not going to cancel you.
Is being open-minded, that's the thing, man, is to just be open to ideas. Doesn't mean you have to believe it. It just means
Truth.
Be open to other possibilities, and I like being open to possibilities. So it works for me.
I'm open to everybody having their own opinion, and
hell yeah,
fuck all this cancel culture shit. But that's my that's my opinion. And if you want to cancel me, turn off the damn show. That's what I say. You know what I mean? So,
right on,
so Killer, man, you just had an album come out, right, in December?
Yeah, it's called Heresy of the Highest Order. The album cover, it's got this girl that's, it's like a ritualistic scene where she's strung up and, she's shooting out menstrual blood out of her, what, and then these powerful figures are basically filling it up in wine glasses and drinking it like it's a wine party. You know, you got everybody in there. I don't want to say the names of these people, but if you look at the album cover, you'll clearly see who these people are.
You know, I'm trying to look it up right now because the one I brought up is not that one that you describe.
Uh-huh.
Let me see.
Yeah, it's right now actually there's a song on there called Kathy O'Brien, and Kathy O'Brien, she was she says that she was a MK Ultra victim, a mind-controlled slave of the government, worked for the White House for over, 25 years. And when she left that whole world, she wrote a book and talked about all this crazy stuff, man. Everything from watching George Bush, shapeshift into a reptilian lizard to, just a bunch of different stories. And that's kind of what that album cover sort of, is pointing the finger at. And anyways, this song we have on there called The Kathy O'Brien Experience, we released on Unique Leader Records. They posted a video link to it on YouTube. And man, if you look at the comments on there for the Kathy O'Brien song, I mean, people are just flipping out about it, man. It's got 50,000 views so far, over, close to 300 comments of people just arguing back and forth, know, and not really knowing what to, how to make sense of it. And so,
right. Yeah.
And I'm just loving the controversy behind it, man. Cause I believe that, controversy and, poking the fire is, just a good way to get people thinking, and it's good, press. Any press is good press, really. So in terms of, getting people to find out about the band, it's been extremely helpful.
And you have another album out since then, correct? Or Prime Specimens?
Yeah, Prime Specimens. That Prime Specimens is more of a live album.
Oh, okay,
from
gotcha.
A bunch of different recordings that we did that we kind of retouched upon and did some things to it, like mixing and mastering, and we've never had a live album really, and so we wanted to put that out as kind of like an in between thing as I work on this new album. So that's kind of filling in the gap a little bit, so to speak.
When do you expect the new album? Man, that Heresy of the Highest Order, that is a brutal cover. I see a lot of prominent figures in there kind of rotting away or something.
Yeah, there's one in there. I don't mind saying who it is. The leader of North Korea. He's in there. So that'll kind of give you an idea. I mean, these guys are just bad dudes all the way around. These people running the world. And they're probably all in the same fucking game together. Just creating fear and insanity amongst people.
Yeah.
The war is a big money maker, and they're feeding that. So.
Yeah, it is. That's the truth. And the funny thing is I always said politicians when they're young and they want to make change. I totally believe it. But once they're in there, they start playing the game, then, and the higher ups, kind of say, look, this is how it's done, and then you either play the game or you're out. And I think that's all of politics. And one of the things that I bitch about and that'll never probably ever change is the age limit of the politicians, because some of them sit in there for 40, 50 years and they don't have a clue of what younger generations want, or, you know what I mean? It's totally changed from 50 years ago. Yeah.
Anyways. And that's one of the big reasons I'm I love punk rock music too. I'm a big punk rock fan, and I wanted to be able to kind of carry over that political element into the technical death metal world, and so that's something I think that we're kind of doing with this album as well, is we're kind of bringing that punk rock spirit into it, even though, we don't technically play punk rock, so to speak. It's on that political spectrum.
Yeah.
And
you know
there's
what?
just something very real about punk that I love.
Well, let me rephrase what I said a minute ago. I wouldn't actually say the age limit. I would say term limits.
Right. Yeah.
Because some older people are sharper, but term limits, I think, is because what it is to me is the longer you're in that position, the more power you think you have, and the more, you know what I mean? The more, I don't know.
Yep.
It's just a power thing once you're in there for so long.
It is a power thing, man. Yeah, they move up through the echelons of power, you know. It's like the Freemasons, you know, how they make it to the 32nd degree, you know. It's like they're moving up that power structure, and then you know, so it's just this big pyramid, you know, and unfortunately we're the people at the bottom holding up the bricks of this pyramid with the rich few powerful at the top.
Yep, that's the truth. So that's our political rant for tonight, everyone. So let me ask you a question. Does your dad still jam?
Oh yeah, definitely, man.
Do you guys get together and jam? Do your brother jam?
We do, yeah. Every once in a while, he you know, we'll need a drummer to fill in or something, and since I play drums too, you know, I'll hop in on the drums. These days, you know, he's not so much doing the hard metal, you know, punk kind of stuff. He's more, you know, doing like surf rock and blues music and stuff like that. So, you know, and it's fun, man. I'll sit in on the drums for him, you know, when he needs me. And of course, you know, his gigs are a lot higher paying than my gigs.
Yeah.
You know, when I sit down on the drums to play a show with him, you know, he's like, oh, here's, you know, $800 to sit in on this show, you know, and that's more than I'll ever make playing our death metal shows. That's for sure.
Do you ever get an itching when you're there to do some kind of double bass and fucking blast beats or something?
There's been a couple times where he turns around, you know, and he's like, settle down back there.
Yeah, chill it out.
Too fill happy, you know. When it comes time to do the drum fill, you know, I'm like, something like that. He's like, what the hell was that?
That's funny. That's great. So does your brother jam too?
Yeah, my brother, he plays bass. He's totally into the punk rock stuff. He's more of a skateboarder, actually. I mean,
gotcha.
he messes around on the bass too, but yeah, he's an artist and a skateboarder. He's had his art on some skateboard decks that have been featured in Thrasher magazine, and
cool.
And he recently just got a skate park built.
Wow.
In a small town up in the Redwoods called Laytonville. He worked to get that skate park built for probably a good 20 years, putting together a fund for it and jumping through the legalities of, you know, the city planning and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he finally got it in there, man, and all the kids are stoked. They're shredding it up out there every day.
That's cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. He did a show there a while back, actually, with a bunch of punk rock bands, and had us play. And so it's like, you know, 12 punk rock bands, and then there's Embryonic Devourment.
Hey,
that
man.
was kind of fun, man. Yeah.
You know, back in the day when I first moved to Tampa area, there was a lot of hardcore and death metal coexisting here. So
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No. It's all extreme, man, you know, and you know, it's like punk rock and even before that, rock and roll, you know, paved the way for, you know, all the death metal stuff. Without it, you know, we wouldn't really be doing it, because it's that whole, you know, getting harder and getting faster, and those were the stepping stones leading into it, you know. And nowadays it's a little different, because, you know, you got the kids that are able to just get on YouTube and go directly to the most hardest, craziest, you know, necrophagist right away, you know. But, you know, people like me and you know, we had to, you know, read the liner notes and, you know, this band's thinking a band called Guillotine. Well, who's Guillotine? Oh, I got to find that band Guillotine, you know. So you go and try to find these bands, you know, and it was special to get a release back then. It was hard to find, you know, and so we, you know, had to, you know, get harder and faster slowly, we weren't able to just click it up on YouTube, and
well, when I was,
so yeah.
And even in the 80s, we would get a magazine of extreme metal or something, and then in the back, you would see people that did tape trading of a fanzine or something. So I would literally write them and say, hey, send me a tape of what you got. And him or her would send me a tape of like 10 or 15 songs of different bands and write them all down. And he'd send one to me, I'd send one to them. And then we would say, hey, I want to hear more of that band because I might not be able to get it, And a lot of these were demos too, So it was fun to do that. It was like,
oh man, I bet.
And
that's got to be killer, man. I remember meeting my friends. It's like, one of us had a tape recorder that could burn tapes. So it was like, hey man, I'll borrow that tape so I can make a copy of that. And it's like we make these little metal mixes and stuff. And I was lucky, because my dad being a rocker guy, I got to kind of experience, everything he was playing in the house at the time. So I got to inadvertently kind of hear the good shit early on, Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and all that kind of stuff when I was real little. So I do feel lucky, that I was able to experience that.
So I'm sure he goes out to your shows and shit, right? And your brother?
Yeah, every so often he does. Yeah, my dad came out and watched us play with Hyrax not too long ago.
Okay, Hyrax, yeah.
Yeah, man. My dad was like, "Holy shit, man! You guys have gotten crazy." He's just like, "Damn, what the hell?" So yeah, it's fun, man, and luckily I have supportive.
Oh, he was probably friends with
parents,
Hyrax,
because yeah, totally, and it's crazy because a lot of us kids back in the day, it's like our parents weren't always supportive of that kind of stuff, but my dad always was. But I can remember my friends, their parents would be throwing away their tapes or, you little Satan worshiper, and throwing their stuff away. And you're not allowed to hang out with Austin anymore. He's a bad influence, So I'm lucky that my dad's always kind of understood, the whole metal way of life.
And honestly, most metalheads are the fucking coolest of all the music genre people.
Totally, man. Really sweet, nice people. In fact, I just met Terry Butler for the first time. You're talking about Terry Butler.
One of my best
earlier.
friends in life.
Yeah, man. And that, we got to play a show with him, and it was so cool being able to walk up to Terry and be like, hey, man, I've been listening to you since I was 12, 13 years old, and he's like, oh, wow, man. He was tripping out on that. And he's like, yeah, I really like your band, man. And you guys are kick ass. And to me, that's just mind blowing, to hear Terry Butler say that, man. It's such a cool, nice guy, and some of these metalheads, man, are just such loving, cool people, and I really think that the mass, the mass of people don't understand how cool and sincere and heartfelt, a lot of these guys really are.
Hell yeah, man. So what do you jump into a different thing? What are the bands that you are most stoked about other than your own right now that you listen to?
Of course, I listen to a lot of metal too. I'm currently, I try to keep up with what's coming out. Like, there's the new Ultimas release that just came out with David Vincent.
Yeah.
Really digging that. I like Gorguts a lot. Big Gorguts fan.
It's hard to keep up with all the releases.
Yeah, but I always find myself listening to the classics, man. Deicide, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse. That's like my classic rock. So
yeah,
I'm always listening to that kind of stuff. But one of the big things I've been listening to lately, and I feel like it's helped my creativity a lot with writing, is jazz, man. I've really been digging on jazz. Yeah, and the more technical jazz, the better. I just really like how it just goes into so many different areas. It's very similar to death metal, especially technical death metal. Jazz is very similar. In fact, if you put jazz on distortion, you might have death metal.
You watch some of those old jazz drummers, and they're slaying it, dude.
Oh yeah, they were shit, man. They were onto the grindcore long before the death metal bands were. They already were doing the one-handed fills on the snare and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, yeah, they're the dudes, and they're also like those were the old school jazz guys. They were the ones smoking the weed and doing all the bad shit, back in the day.
and if you ever,
they're the badasses, man.
If you ever listen to some old jazz, the drummer is always doing a drum solo. You almost always. It might be
and that's
short.
To death metal, man.
Yeah, it's not. It may not. And I say drum solo, but not really. It's just a highlight in the song, maybe that he's just tearing it up, But there's nothing wrong with diversity and all kinds of. I listen to all kinds of fucking music, man. All types of genres of music, and fuck yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
So what?
That's awesome, dude.
What do you do? Is there anything you do other than music, like on your spare time, if you have any?
Well, I work at a cannabis company. A legal, since back in the day,
Seems like that's a going theme up there in Northern California.
Yeah,
the weed factory or whatever, the weed farms or whatever.
Yeah, it used to be all black market style. We'd be running from the helicopters and and a lot of our friends, got busted and this and that. The farm that me and my dad grew on, we were always under the belief system that camouflage is our only weapon, so we were always very tip top on our camouflage, covering up our trails, putting up the camo netting.
I see y'all were doing that way before
brown.
It was legal and stuff. I gotcha.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of our friends went down, got busted and did hard time but we made it out, without ever getting busted, out of the darkness of the tunnel. And now I find myself in the legal industry, working at a desk job, basically, doing sales.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing now for my day job.
That's what I do.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty much that, it's weed and music.
And so it allows you to go on tour when you need to.
It does, man. I work at a really cool job, and my boss, is very understanding whenever I need to take time off. And, I'm working the type of job where I can work on the road, by phone.
If you have to.
I'm able to kind of do that.
I kind of can too, but they don't let me.
Yeah.
So, any tours you got lined up coming up, or just waiting on this new album?
Well, we're talking about doing the last tour we did, at least a big U.S. tour was actually right just before COVID hit. We've done a lot of shows since then, all over the place, traveling and stuff for one-off shows. But as far as like a U.S. tour type thing, the last one was right before COVID hit. And we did that with Internal Bleeding all across the U.S. And so, now we're finally at a point now where we can get back into doing some more touring. And we're looking at possibly doing this upcoming June. And so we're in talks with a couple bands and figuring out the logistics of things right now. But that's kind of the time frame we're looking at. It's probably around June or July. We have toured all over Europe, all over USA a few times over in the past before COVID hit. Just all over the place, man. We did, I think, 14 countries in Europe.
Nice.
That was with Malignancy and Nader Sadek and Stages of Decomposition. And so that was a really fun tour. We want to get back out to Europe again, too. And, mainly just writing, man. I want to pump out this new album. I really feel this new stuff we're writing is just going to be over the top, just unlike any other Embryonic release before.
Killer. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking of what? End of the year?
I think so. That's what it's looking like. I'm about halfway through. And I've been, steadily working on it every day. So yeah, I'm thinking probably by the end of the year,
you do
should be wrapping things up.
Do you do all the writing on this, or do you have other members are also contributing? How's this work?
The last album, Heresy of the Highest Order, yeah, I wrote that entire thing, all the riffage and lyrics. And then Luke, my drummer, what I'll do is I'll hand him kind of like a demo with my drums on there, and I'll say, like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Of course, he laughs at it, says, that's cute. Now I'm going to write my own drums to it. So, I feel like, Luke, he writes too. He has a lot to do with, like, I'll pump out the songs, but then he has a lot to do with the drum arrangement and kind of how things fit together. And so once he puts his polish on it, then it's pretty much good to go. And then I'll have the other guys step in and lay down some guitar work and some guitar solos. At least that's how the last album went. And I'm pretty sure that's how this new one's going to go as well. I've been recording the drums, bass, vocals, guitar, and then I'll basically just hand them my, preliminary pre-production demo and say, this is what I'm kind of thinking. And then they'll put their spin on it. And that's kind of how we'll arrive with it, I think.
Do you go out as a 3-piece, or do you bring another guitarist along with?
Yeah, lately it's been a 3-piece. It's me, Luke, my drummer, and another guy named Ben Harris playing guitar, and we've been doing it like that. And in the past, we've been all the way up to a 5-piece. We've been a 4-piece. Hell, we've been a 2-piece. We did the Internal Bleeding tour as a 2-piece.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we don't let anything get us down. If we're lacking a member or just can't find somebody or whatever it may be, we're going out and we're doing it no matter what. We're going to go out and crush, and we'll figure out how to make it sound like a full band. Like when me and Luke were doing it as a 2-piece, I used a splitter pedal and had one side go into a guitar amp and the other side go into a bass amp with a bass synthesizer pedal. And then I was doing vocals on top of that, so
wow.
It sounded like a damn full band, and the Internal Bleeding guys, even they were, kind of scratching their heads going like, fuck, I don't know how you guys are doing it, man. That sounds fucking awesome.
Cool.
And, yeah, we just make it happen. But yeah, right now we're a 3-piece. This guy, Ben, we're working with, he's an awesome guitar player. And, yeah, we're stoked to have him. We're pretty much a family right now, so it's going well.
Cool. Hell yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it, Austin. It's fucking been killer, man. It's definitely a different kind of interview than I've ever done with the.
Right on,
but I enjoyed it. It's awesome.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah. Well, whenever you get out,
if we ever get back out to Florida again, man, we'll have to meet up. We've been out to Florida a couple times on tour. We played down in Tampa and played
where I'm at, Tampa.
Brass Mug.
Oh yeah, the legendary Brass Mug.
Yeah. Corpse Grinder even came out for that show. That was a trip.
Yeah, he's been over here to DMD's Funhouse a couple times. So yeah, so you'll have to come over here sometime. DMD's Funhouse. That's what I call my house, the party house or whatever.
Right on. That sounds killer.
If the timing's right, sometimes bands stay here. So it's just if the timing's right, But
excellent.
Yeah,
we'll bring you some of that killer Northern California weed, man.
Well, I thank you, but I don't smoke weed, so there you have it. I'm just a drinker.
That's not a bad thing.
I'm just a drinker on occasion, but yeah, man,
there you go.
I moved to this place and said, hey, I'm gonna make this where you know, if my friends are on tour, they can crash here or whatever. So that's what it's
awesome,
been.
man.
It's like, and like I said, some people say, what the hell? This is like a museum in here. But yeah, I have a couple of rooms that are set up for, a metalhead's dream. So, but,
that's cool, dude.
fuck
Love
yeah. Austin, I really thank you for joining me and taking time from your family. And Saturday is what this day is. And yeah, appreciate it, man. We'll be looking forward to it, and we'll be in touch, especially when the new album comes out.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and you have a great day, brother.
All right. Oh, one other thing. Where can everybody buy your shit? I know you got a Bandcamp. Do you have a website?
Yeah. Well, there's our record label, uniqueleader.com, Unique Leader Records, puts us out right now. Or, you can go to our official website, www.embryonicdevourmentband.com. And, that's pretty much it. And then, we got all our stuff on YouTube and Bandcamp and all that as well.
They can keep in touch on Facebook and all that shit.
Yep. I run the Facebook, so anytime you message on Facebook, I'm usually quick to answer. I like being really responsive, and
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I give everybody, the time of day, and I love this metal scene, and I'm still excited about it. Just as excited about it as I was when I was a kid. Man.
Well, that's cool, man. Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. I'll let you go, and thank you for joining us once again, man.
Hell yeah, Dave. We'll do it again sometime, man.
Fuck yeah, man. Thanks, brother.
All right, later, bro.
All right, see you. Hey, man, before you go. All right. Well.